So the stage was set for another bloodbath on the markets today, driven by renewed fear over Europe's sovereign debt. European shares were hit hard and Wall Street plunged as attention turned to France, its banks and their exposure to other indebted nations. But by midday, sentiment was turning amid denials from the rating agencies of any prospect of a French downgrade, and by the close, we were largely back to where we started, for now. Simon Pallan reports.
Even those who've been around for a while are staggered by the extremes of the market swings right now.
This would be one of the most volatile fortnights we've had in the last 30 years. We can only think of back in 1992, perhaps 1987, and of course 2008. So almost unprecedented.
A 2% plunge from the open had become a modest rise by lunchtime and flat by the close.
There doesn't seem to be any real solutions. There are temporary measures and there's some stopgap measures, and then we wait for, I guess, the next issue to arise. But there doesn't seem to be any, I think, real measures. And there's some concerns, I think, over the political will, the possible solutions. So we could potentially see this volatility and uncertainty continue for some time.
Rumours swept the markets in Europe and the US of a potential ratings downgrade for France and the exposure of the big banks like Societe Generale to Italian debt. All three ratings agencies denied a downgrade was on the cards. The French president cut short his holiday for urgent talks on cutting the country's deficit, but the damage was done.
It's really the market saying, well, if the US has been downgraded, let's have a look at the exposure of other major G7 economies. And certainly when you look at France, for example, it isn't that too distant from the reasons for the US downgrade.
The wide smiles and applause couldn't hide it. Losses of more than 500 points.
We continue to get hit with bad news out of Europe on the sovereign debt front. The latest concerns are about France. Obviously, the stakes are going up there. It seems like every time there's news about Europe, the country involved is getting bigger and bigger.
You've got really, I think, this concern of a number of headwinds to the US economy, and one of them is really the fact that the US is going to have to rein in its fiscal position further.
Analysts say the growing global uncertainty is now taking a toll on Australia's labour market. New figures show unemployment rose unexpectedly to 5.1% for July, as the local economy shed more than 22,000 full-time jobs.
It's certainly a sign that we are seeing a more broader slowdown in the domestic economy than we would have anticipated even 2 weeks ago.
And it makes an interest rate cut even more likely. The market's pricing in a 60% chance of 2 rate cuts in the coming months.